guys, and welcome to the Watchtower Watch Reviews with your host DK, and today we're taking a look at another micro brand watch. Now this one is from a brand I have actually had on the channel previously, Pompeak. So I had a Pompeak dress watch on. It was a open heart movement, not skeletonized, open heart movement. Didn't really feel like it did a whole lot for me personally, but it seems to do well on their website, so fair play to them. However, they did then have something else called the Sub-Aquatic. And when I saw that, I thought, that's more like what I'm talking about. I like that kind of look. So they were kind enough to send one to me. I don't get to keep it. I do have to send it back to the company, or hopefully to the next reviewer. I need to actually message Pompeak about that and let them know I've got a guy in mind for it. So without any further ado, let's take a look at their Pompeak Sub-Aquatic dive watch and see if it is any good. Let's get to it. So let's crack on with the unboxing. So this one is on loan to me, but if you do want to get one yourself, they're about £599 sterling on rubber or £609 on the bracelet. That equates to about 710 US dollars or just under 705 euros. The box you get it in is actually quite a nice piano black box. It's a really nice, it gives you kind of ebony look to it. Very nice indeed, very high polish and looks quite classy if you want to use it as a display piece. Inside you do get the watch, of course, so they've sent me this Sub-Aquatic blue waffle dial, which is really nice. We're going to get into it, of course, when we get more into the review side of things. As well as that, you do also get a couple of little accoutrements or little aside or assortments in the box itself. You get yourself a little polishing cloth, and you do also get a warranty card, which I will show you guys in a second once I stop focusing on the watch. So as I say, putting that aside, you do get your warranty card and you do get a little black signed polishing cloth. The warranty card, if I can remember correctly, is a 2-year warranty. I do need to check that though afterwards. I'll pop it on screen if that is not 2 years. And you do of course get your little polishing cloth, and that is pretty much your lot. So if we're looking at dimensions on this one, it is 41mm in diameter 8.2, so it is the more sort of Submariner style from the 2000s, the late 2000s I should say. You've got your 44.793 across the crown. You've got 47.2mm lug tip to lug tip. However, with the male end links it works out about 51.8mm. Lug width is 20mm, tapering to 15.4, back up to 17.7 at that clasp. You've got thickness of 12.7mm at the thickest part of the crystal, and the weight with all links is 152 grams. However, with 4 links removed for my wrist, set up for just under 7-inch wrist, you're coming in at about 140 grams. So specs on this one, well, it is all stainless steel construction on the case, the crown, the bezel and the bracelet. You can see there is a mixture of brushed and high polished. Now I didn't say 316L because this is actually 904L stainless steel, and if you're not familiar with that, it's actually the same type of stainless steel that Rolex use on the Submariner. Now the difference between this is it is a bit softer, which means it may scratch and scuff up a little bit more, but it is much easier to buff and polish out, so it's easier to repair any kind of marks on it. You do get high polish on the case sides, you do get high polish on that crown, and you get a nice brushing on the top lugs there as well, integrating nicely into the bracelet. It's a mixture of high polish and brushed, of course, on that bracelet. Again, very much like the Rolex Submariner. You've got yourself some solid end links. You've got solid links as well in the bracelet. No flex at all in these. They are, however, not a full 3-piece. It is just a imitation 3-piece made to look like a 3-piece bracelet. The clasp is, again, very similar to a Rolex Submariner. They've gone for that style. They're homaging that and putting their own little twist on it. You've got your little clasp there, flips open, fully milled, of course. And they've even included a homage to the glide lock system, meaning that this gives you a sweaty day adjustment. You've got, I think it's about 6 layers of micro adjusts on this one. Simply fold it out and snap it so that you can adjust. You do also get a lumed ceramic bezel insert. I'm going to stop talking so you can hear the clicks now. Now there is a bit of backplay in that bezel. I'm not too much of a fan of that one, if I'm quite honest. You do also get a very nice piece of domed sapphire crystal with clear AR coating, and I think it's doing a great job, in fairness, of reflecting off my lights, so you can still see the dial without it just being a glare city basically. I think it's doing a pretty good job of keeping that away. You've got yourself a signed screw down crown and a screw down exhibition case back, showing off that Swiss movement, which we'll talk about in a second. You've also got the fact that it is proclaiming it is 904L stainless steel and 20 atmospheres of water resistance, and of course your sapphire crystal with a signed rotor in the back as well. Now it's basic signing, but it is still a signed rotor, which is nice to see. The movement inside is the Sellita SW200 Swiss Automatic. You've got 38 hours of power reserve. It is a high beat, 28,800 beats per hour movement. It hacks and hand winds with a quick set date change as well. So first setting of the crown is to wind the watch. Second setting, if you pull it out, is to change the date. And the third setting is, of course, to set the time. So fairly basics, but nice to have a Swiss movement. Under the macro, you can see the star of the show really is that lovely waffle dial. There are other colour variants available, but to be quite honest, I don't know why you'd pick them. This is the pick of the bunch. It is absolutely magic, and it's slightly discounted versus the others. I'm not really sure as to why, because to me, this is the one to go for. That blue to black check is lovely. The little splash of red from the second hand and the Sub-Aquatic bit at the 6 o'clock. You've got baton indices and circular indices then around the dial, and a framed silver date window as well. And I think at any angle, this one is spectacular. It's always changing color depending on which way the light is hitting it, and it's also just giving you something different to look at. So in different light conditions, it's almost like having a new watch. And even on dull days, I think this one is a great one. So this is a fairly dark day when I was out filming, and I think it looks really well on my 7-inch wrist. As I say, I've got 4 links taken out. I don't remember exactly which level of the micro adjust it's on, but trust me, you'll have plenty to play around with. So if you're in a cold weather and your wrist shrinks, you'll be able to fit it. And if you're in a hot weather and your wrist swells, you'll be able to fit. However, if you don't like it, I would suggest picking yourself up a cheap and cheerful strap from AliExpress. This one is again made for a Rolex Submariner homage. I know I keep mentioning that, but it is fairly self-evident with the exception of those hands and the dial, of course. However, I think it really suits the black and blue fade dial, especially this one with the black with the blue stripe. However, if you don't want to go down that route and you want to try and differentiate it, a mesh is a great way to go. I'm a big fan of mesh straps on dive watches, and I think this is a great one to stick it on. That bracelet does lend itself very much to a Rolex Submariner homage, and if you change that out for a mesh, again just takes it one step away if you don't like that sort of thing. This is a strap actually I kind of cobbled together myself. It's a canvas strap that I then kind of liberated a butterfly clasp from, and I think it looks great on this. Again, a canvas strap just takes it away from the homage territory and gives it more originality to go with those lovely dial and hands. Two of my favorite things about this watch. And I did mention that this watch has a Lume ceramic bezel insert. Let's see how that Lume does. So you can see there the Lume has been applied fairly well and fairly evenly. However, I wouldn't say it's the greatest Lume I've ever seen. Again, this is 15 minutes of footage sped up down to about, say, 50 seconds, I think. And after a while, it's pretty much gone. So on camera, I reckon it was gone after maybe 5 to 8 minutes. And in real life, that equates to about, I'd say about 2 hours. For the price of the money, I would be expecting a little bit better Lume, if I'm being totally honest. I think they could have done with an extra couple of layers on this one. As you can see, it's pretty much gone here. I have worn it to bed and woken up in the middle of the night, and I haven't really been able to tell what time it is without really squinting. So not ideal. So likes and dislikes on this one, and I'm going to start with likes, and I really love that dial and those hands. Again, this is what differentiates it from a straight up homage that you'd have seen me review before from the likes of San Martin or Steel Dive or any of those. I think that dial and those hands are great. I think they're really legible. I think that the dial is just great. It's a real light catcher. It plays with it. You can see there in certain conditions it's black, in certain conditions it's teal, certain conditions it's navy, and the little pop of red again just differentiates the second hand and the text on the dial. I think they've got it really well put together. And it's not a full copage, clomage as I say. You do get yourself a automatic Swiss movement as well, which definitely beats the old NH35 that you'd find in most Chinese clones or copages, homages, whatever you want to call them, depending on your preference. However, dislikes, unfortunately, I don't like the high polish on this one. The 904L stainless steel does scuff up and scratch a bit more than 316L seems to. And to be honest, I just don't really like high polish mid links. They're not my favorite thing. The clasp again just brings it more towards an homage, and I think they could have done something different with it. It's great to have on the fly micro adjust. I just wish they didn't really just use the same system as Rolex. It's just, Yeah, I just think, yeah, it's great to have, but I love that dial and I love those hands so much. I wish they'd done something different with it. To be honest, you don't need on the fly. It would be great to have, but if you're gonna do it, maybe do it with some more originality. So, for example, this is a Christopher Ward that I have, and it has on the fly adjustment. Now, again, it does have high polish, which is not something I'm a huge fan of, and it has a different style of clasp. It's just a two button pusher, but they do have on the fly adjustment, and they have their own system, which is basically a little slide. So you push in the clasp and it allows you to slide. I think it's got 4 levels of micro adjust. The Pompeak has 6. So it just does something different and it's a bit unique. And again, it would be great if Pompeak could have done something like that. However, something I really dislike is the crown action on this one. So I found it very, very difficult to get this to set back in. There was a couple of times where I was pushing it in and I thought I was setting it and it was just free spinning. So let's try it first here. We're going to push it in and we're going to try and turn it. And it's sort of stuck. It's almost grinding. So I think I might be threading the crown. So I don't really want to do that. So let's unwind it and go again. And that time it didn't engage at all. And then finally we try it again for a third time. It does go in, but it's not nice. It's very gritty, and you can see my fingers going red from having to really put pressure on winding it. So, final verdict on this one. Is it better than the other Pompeak I had? Absolutely, 100%. It's way more up my street. Would I recommend buying it for 700 quid? Not really. I think unfortunately the crown action is not great. It does lean too closely into an Homage with all the elements they've very liberally borrowed from Rolex, and it would be great if they just did something different for the micro adjust. So an improvement, guys, but maybe the third one will be the best one. So guys, there you have it, my review of the Pompeak Sub-Aquatic. It's a really nice watch. I really love the dial actually. The dial in the hands are the big selling points for me. That blue kind of waffle, almost fade blue to black dial, spectacular. Build quality, excellent. Can't really complain too much about that. The only problem is that bracelet makes it feel a bit too much of a close to Homage. So they've changed the dial in the hands. They've put obviously a Swiss movement into it as opposed to something like an NH35 that you'd see on a usual Rolex Submariner AliExpress Homage. But the case is a Rolex Submariner style. The bracelet is a 3-piece Oyster in 904L stainless steel mixture of brush and high polish, and it has the exact same style of flip-flop clasp, or whatever you call it, glide lock, whatever style clasp that comes with a Rolex Submariner, and that for me just pushes it a little bit too close to straight Homage. I wish they'd found something else to do with that clasp, because had they got some other micro adjust in, and if it was a brush bracelet, I would heartily recommend this every day of the week. I'm not the biggest fan of the Sellita SW200 movement inside. It's not my favourite. I do find it can be a little bit gritty to wind, and it can be hard to get the crown to screw down. I found that even with the Christopher Ward with the same movement inside. But it is a very nice watch. It is very decently priced, and it is an interesting proposition. My one recommendation for Pompeak would be, if you are going to keep the bracelet, if people don't want the bracelet, offer a reduced price version with a form-fitted rubber strap. Yes, I know that does even lean more into a Rolex Submariner Homage, but I thought it looked fantastic on the black and blue form-fitted strap, and I thought that was the way I was going to wear it. Alternatively, offer it with a mesh. That solves everyone's problem. Looks less like an Homage, and you get a decent mesh strap as well. Guys, I have been your host DK. This has been the Watch Watch Views, and I will see you guys next time.